was no studios. There was no home studios either. And at a party, somebody says, "You look like an artist. You want to come and fill some night hours in my studio?" And it's like having the golden ticket. Like you can't do anything without access to a studio. Studios are expensive. Post-Soviet Russia, they might have been like five in the whole city, right?
Wow.
Government, mostly government run. So this one guy was the private owner of a studio. And I'm like, yes, please. And he goes, so who's gonna write the songs? I'm gonna write the songs. Who's gonna write the lyrics? I'm gonna write the lyrics. And I went home, and I have never written a melody or a lyric in my life. But I told the guy that I would do it, so I went home and wrote some songs, brought it to him. He sort of liked them, and we started experimenting, and sort of started from there. But it was sort of fast when we hit our stride. But in the beginning, it was just nothing, right? It was just us trying something new, and eventually it just got traction. And I had, from the time I was officially sort of doing it professionally, by the end of the year, I had a bidding war of record companies trying to sign me.
Welcome to the Effortlessly Abundant Life podcast. I'm Natalia, a certified hypnotherapist and a mindset shifter. Not too long ago, I was a broke, burned out, multi-passionate single woman to now making six figures effortlessly, marrying the love of my life and attracting what I want by using my unique bridge method. I'm here to help you achieve the results you want in any area of your life by owning your true unique self with less doing, less stress, and definitely less effort. Now let's jump to today's episode in 3, 2, 1. Hello, my beautiful, beautiful, beautiful souls. Welcome to another episode of Effortlessly Abundant Life. I have a treat for you guys. I have an incredible, incredible soul. His name is Christian Ray Flores, and he came to me and listening to our show and coming from a very interesting background and very similar background as myself, being a musician, being raised in multiple countries, doing multiple things. So I thought it would be very much fun to bring him along to tell his story and kind of dive deeper how to do it all and how to follow your passion. Because as you know, we're all about escaping the matrix. We're about breaking the norms and creating our own norms. And that's what it's all about. So with no further ado, I'm very excited to introduce you to Christian. Feel free to introduce yourself, my dear.
Thank you, Natalia. It's an absolute joy to be with you, especially with a fellow vocalists. Yeah.
I
So
like
it's
how
a
you say it, vocalist. It's good.
vocalist.
Good
I,
pronunciation.
it's hard for me to introduce myself because I'm sort of a little confusing. I'm confused and confusing. So I basically do a few things. I have a brand strategy company, so we do digital media for people. I also do high performance coaching. I also do philanthropy in Africa, right? It's there's a few things that I do, but basically the origin story is that my first professional success, I've had five different career switches, was in music, right? And it was in Eastern Europe. So I grew up in 6 countries, 4 continents, but my first break was pop music, former Soviet Union, that whole space. So I toured throughout and the whole thing, and that sort of spawned media,
Were you the
producer,
Philip
media.
Kirkorov of Russia?
What was that?
Were you the
Kirkorov.
Kirkorov?
I know Philip really well, by the way. But I was sort of the Justin Timberlake of Russia. Let's put it that way.
Ah, nice. I'll
So I
take.
did like pop, R&B, stuff like that. So, and I know all those people that you might imagine who they are. Philip Kirkorov is one of them. I know him really well.
Amazing, amazing. So first of all, take us to Chile.
Yeah,
How? Because you, from what I know, you were a refugee there. So tell us
I
about
was.
more on that kind of that situation. What happened there?
I was basically, my dad's Chilean. So I grew up, my mom's Russian. I don't look Russian at all. I look 1%, 100% Latino. And it's because of my Chilean dad. I was there. We were going to stay there. And then there was a massive refugee crisis because of a military coup. My dad was in a concentration camp. We were refugees. We had to be kicked out, got asylum in Germany. So it was sort of the first childhood memory. It was not like one of those normal middle class, everything is fine kind of memories. So it's pretty traumatic.
So what was traumatic for you? What did you see there that you still remember?
Oh, what I remember, actually, my first childhood memory was standing, holding my mom's hand, and I was standing outside of a concentration camp. They arrested tens of thousands of people all over, put them in prisons, and there was torture and death. But they also put like tons of thousands of people in these soccer stadiums. Those were the concentration camps. And my mom was standing there. I'm holding her hand, and she's trying to pass a little paper bag with food and sort of begging the soldier to find my dad and give him some food. And that was literally my first memory that I can recall. I was 5 years old, and yeah, I mean, is he alive? Are we gonna see him alive?
Hmm.
Are we gonna make it? All of those things, all at the same time. Uh, that was the stuff, right?
Oof, it's big stuff.
It is big
I
stuff.
remember my first childhood memory was standing in line for, Soviet Union. We're from Belarus, right?
Hmm.
And I was 3 years old, standing in line with my mom and my grandma and waiting for our portion of milk. And then you have another line for sugar, and then you have a line for bread. And if they ran
Yep.
out, they ran out. And
Yep.
it,
I remember those. Hmm.
yep. And that was my first memory. And then
Where, was that in Minsk or some other city?
Minsk, yes,
Hmm.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So I moved to Israel when I was 3 years old, and
Hmm.
it's definitely something I feel as immigrants and being, as you know, I was born in Belarus, raised in Israel. Now I live in New York City, living in all these different countries. It really, I don't know about you, but tell me if that's something you feel as well. It's like you don't really belong to anywhere. You don't really
Oh,
have a
100%.
home.
Yeah. Yeah. It's called third culture kid. Have you heard that term?
Yes,
Yeah. It's a TCK situation. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So where do you feel at home now? Do you have a place where you can truly feel that is your chosen home now?
Yeah. I mean, I am more American culturally than I am Chilean or Russian, right? And I grew up literally, I went Russia, Chile, Germany, Russia, Africa. This is by age 7, 4 countries by age 7, right? Sort of similar to you, right? A lot of start over, start over, start over. No language, new language, new culture, new everything. Um, and I think because of that, just like any third culture kid, you develop this very fragmented uh, uh, sort of personality, multicultural personality. And the downside is that you don't belong anywhere. You're sort of weird, right? And I would say that from those little, mosaic pieces that you collect over your lifetime when you move around and you form new friendships and new experiences and you learn new things, you develop something that is whole as you mature. And to me, I find America to be the closest thing to home that I can find because everybody is from somewhere else, right? Even if it's 1, 2 generations back. But there's an acceptance of that. There's this incredible acceptance of new people. If you're from somewhere else, you can still be American. But if you go, let's say, to Belarus, right, of all places, I can be a Chilean who lives in Belarus or a Russian who lives in Belarus, but I'm not from Belarus, and everybody knows that. In America, even if you have a slight accent, people go, "Yeah, you're American."
Exactly, exactly. And that's why I love being here. And that's truly my chosen home as well. When I moved here 10 years ago
Yeah.
to pursue to become an opera singer, we're going to talk about your music career.
Mm.
Thinking like that is the place to make it, right? When you're a
Yeah.
singer, you think about it, United States, you think about making it big here. And that was one of the things I said to myself. I don't know why, but New York calls my name specifically, not just any place in the
Interesting.
United
Yeah.
States.
Hmm. Well,
Yes,
it's a very theatrical place. I'm sure that
it
has
is.
something to do with it, right?
So how did you end up in music? How that even came about?
Well, so my formal education was eventually in economics. Have a master's degree in economics, but I started singing when I was in Africa, and it was actually one of those third culture experiences because we had this community of Chileans there that are all exiles, and this one lady, her name is Angelica, and we called her Tia Keka. She put together this little children's choir, right? And she would play guitar and would learn how to play, some of those drums and shakers, and would play these Latin American folklore classics like Colombia, Chile, Brazil, whatever. And I had a natural tone since I was like five, probably. My mom and dad would, when they had visitors, they would come in, Christian, come in, and they would put me in the living room. Put like I would stand on a chair, and they would say, "Just sing something," and I would sing something though. So I had a natural tone and definitely an inclination for singing. So in that choir, I started doing some solo parts, and I remember very distinctly. You probably can relate to this when you feel something in your soul, like you have a state of flow, when you go, "Oh, I can do this forever," you know?
Mm.
Yeah, I can do it. It's just this almost like you feel this elevated state of being when you do something that you were supposed to do. And that faded away actually for a while. My parents went through a divorce, went back to Russia. It was pretty depressing Soviet Union stuff, right? And but I got into breakdancing, and that was also very like subculture, underground culture type of stuff because it was
Yes.
still behind the Iron Curtain, right? And and I became really good. But then eventually, like I was probably halfway through college where I'm like, I can sing, I can dance, I love the stage. What if, And
Mhm.
all of my friends went into like business and finance and I'm like the one idiot who went into like the creative arts with almost zero chance of success. And that's basically how it started. And so I sort of found I found a studio. I found like somebody came up to me. There was no studios. There was no home studios either. And at a party, somebody says, "You look like an artist. You want to come and fill some night hours in my studio?" And it's like having the golden ticket. Like you can't do anything without access to a studio. Studios are expensive. Post-Soviet Russia, they might have been like five in the whole city, right?
Wow.
Government, mostly government run. So this one guy was the private owner of a studio. And I'm like, yes, please. And he goes, so who's gonna write the songs? I'm gonna write the songs. Who's gonna write the lyrics? I'm gonna write the lyrics. And I went home, and I have never written a melody or a lyric in my life. But I told the guy that I would do it. So I went home and wrote some songs, brought it to him. He sort of liked them, and we started experimenting and sort of started from there. But it was sort of fast when we hit our stride. But in the beginning, it was just nothing, right? It was just us trying something new, and eventually it just got traction, and I had from the time I was officially sort of doing it professionally, by the end of the year I had a bidding war of record companies trying to sign me, and it went from small clubs to medium venues to sports arenas, TV, radio, around 15 countries, including Belarus, by the way, like all of the former Soviet Union. I toured all of that space.
So how was that like being a rock star? Was it everything you ever imagined, or was it a little bit disappointing?
It was both, actually, in the sense that I loved, I really loved being able to create music that resonates with people and then see it spread, like virally spread. And then you go to a city you've never been to before, and 5,000 people know the lyrics of your song. That's just unbelievable, right? It is.
100%.
It is an out of body experience, and it's just one of the highlights of my life and the great privileges. I know that I was just extraordinarily lucky. And so all of that stuff, the creative part was just incredibly fulfilling. And then when I started sort of phasing out of it was because I realized that although I was living the dream of a stereotypical musician who could do it for the rest of his life, that's all he lives and breathes. There was parts of me that were dormant, that were not fulfilled actually, right? So I was on this train ride on tour, all of my entourage is sort of hanging out. They were not in the train car for me. Usually we're like hanging out together all the time, playing cards or something. I think they were like in the restaurant car, but I was alone and I was looking out. It was an introspective moment. And I remember thinking, is this all there is for me? And then thinking, how dare you think, is this all there is for you, right? Like
You have it
you're living,
all.
you have it all, right? And but it was an actual, almost like a whisper of the soul for me.
Mm.
And I go, I remember going, a stereotypical musician who only that's all he wants to do or she wants to do. I do have it all, but I'm not that person, right? If like I speak four languages, I have a degree in economics, I want to do business, I want to do entrepreneurship, I want to do philanthropy, I want to do things in other places. I'm an international guy. I grew up all over the world, and I'm essentially sort of sequestered to this. I mean, it's a big territory, to be honest, but
For sure.
there's, what I'm saying, like
Yes.
there's colors that were missing in the palette, and I also wanted to build a family, and I realized, and I was very, very serious about building a family because I come from a divorced sort of marriage with my parents, and then I have a child out of wedlock that I got separated from. So I had a very intense desire to build a family, and I knew that in the long run, this lifestyle would be hard to reconcile, hard to blend into a great marriage, great parenting lifestyle. So there's all these little colors, right, they were not there. And that's when I decided I'm going to transition out of it, which was a very strange thing to do. Everybody thought I was crazy. So yeah.
Got into it thinking crazy, and now you got out of it. People thought
Yeah.
it's crazy. I mean,
Yeah,
crazy is
that's
the
exactly
motive.
it. Yeah.
But a
Yeah.
question for you, did you ever do your human design?
No. What is that?
So human design, it's an interesting slash philosophy and approach, but it's almost like horoscope, right? It's astrology. It's a combination between numerology, astrology,
Hmm.
Hindu, I Ching, all these modalities combined into one.
Hmm.
And there's 5 different types of energy types. So what's
Hmm.
interesting, I'm a multi-passionate, and
Yeah.
the title of it is manifesting generator. I can
Hmm.
tell just from listening to you and knowing you,
Yeah.
you're 100% a manifesting generator. And why I'm saying that, not because it defines us, it's
Hmm.
because there's only, I would say, like 28% in population, people like us.
Yeah.
Because when you really look at what's going on in the world, people go to college, as your friends did, they do their degree, and then they go do their
Yeah.
whatever
They stay on a
career
lane. Yeah,
for
that's right.
30 years, and they
Yeah.
retire and they die. Fantastic. And we cannot be like that.
No.
And it's almost like our identity shifts constantly. We have
Hmm.
to do multiple things at the same time. And
Yep.
one of the things that was really hard for me, because I didn't really know about human design until I started learning more about it as I was learning about coaching and all that, like you get introduced to many different modalities. It's like giving the permission slip to be that unicorn and be able to do all those things and to do them well.
Hmm.
But also knowing, okay, what it is that I really want to do, not what I do well, but what it is that I really, really want to do. And
Yeah.
I admire the fact that you follow that a passion, right? When you went
Hmm.
to music and then you listen to your gut without even knowing you did it, probably
Hmm.
telling you, like, wait, there's more to what it is that I want to experience as a soul in this lifetime. There's more for me than just this rock star life and creating music. I think it's incredible. Did you ever thought about this? Was it ever hard for you to follow your passion and kind of be out the non-normal person?
It's all the time. You feel like there's something wrong with you, right?
Especially coming from a Russian
Yeah. Oh,
background. I mean, come on. Your mom
yeah.
probably wants you to be an engineer, a successful banker, and here you are
Yeah.
touring
Oh,
with
it's
Philip
crazy.
Kirkorov. It's like,
Exactly. So, and every time I start something new, you'll probably appreciate it because I would go, when we moved to the States, my wife and I and my three children, my three daughters, I started I started a production company in LA, then I started a marketing company, then I started a coaching business, and we did two different startups that are philanthropic, right, nonprofits. So every time I would start something new, my mom would be, like a Russian mom, she would be worried, and I'm like, Mom, can I ask you a question? She goes, Yeah. I'm like, what's the worst can happen? Is it going to be worse than the Soviet Union? She goes, No. I said, Well, there you go.
you've been through the
So
worst. Come on.
come on
It
now.
all could go
It's
higher from here.
exactly. So yeah, but to be honest, yes, I think that's a constant tension for most people like us. And the shadow side of it, I believe, it's when you feel like you don't belong anywhere, that there's something really wrong with you and you're broken. And I think on the upside, when you embrace it and start fine tuning it, you realize that you can create incredible value in people's lives, and you can be in a way a generalist, that because you're a generalist, you become an extraordinary specialist because you have sort of adjacent spaces you have an expertise in that all play together. So you can recognize patterns that a narrow specialist cannot, and find solutions that a narrow specialist cannot find in different areas of human activity. So that's a huge,
Also
it's actually a huge.
combining multiple things and creating something new.
That's exactly it. So it's there's an amazing advantage of that. Now the downside is that you can, and that's sort of my downside. I can pursue four things at the same time and not do well in neither of the four things. So that is a downside. It's a real
The
downside. So
question
because
is it because what do you think? Is it because you took too much? You
yeah, too much fragmentation. Yeah, too much.
right.
So the thing that gives you the advantage is also the thing that can give you the disadvantage, and you need to know how to navigate that basically. I think yes, I think anyone. I mean, I don't remember who said that, but I think it's actually very true. The most successful people out there say no to almost everything. To almost everything. And I think it doesn't negate the ability to be interested in all kinds of things. But then you have to sort of figure out, okay, for this period, for this season, how long am I going to focus, and then be able to hyper focus, because limited attention also produces limited results. So I still have to battle that all the time, the desire to go here and there and there. And maturity is being able to focus and say, okay, I'm going to put this into the back burner. I'm going to focus on this. I'm going to do really, really, really well. So that's sort of those are the tensions that I live with, at least.
No, I think it's all about truly building a strong base first that requires 100% of your attention.
Hmm.
And once it's kind of has its own legs and it start moving by itself, then you can add another layer of something else. That's what I
Yeah.
found with myself.
Right.
I mean, I'm a mom as well. I have my own coaching business as well. And I also have a VP of contracting company in New York City. So we wear all these hats, but also we got to be realistic of what is a truly a hell yes, what aligns with your values and your true deep passion. Because let me tell you, being a singer, after doing this for good 10 years, I was doing lead roles in operas.
Hmm.
I went to America's Got Talent, all this stuff, right?
Hmm.
And I really realized that I did it because not only I kind of like wanted the attention, because as you go through coaching and because you do it mostly for yourself first, right? You want to kind of figure
Hmm.
yourself out. And I realized the reason why I'm doing all these things is to get the applause, to get the attention, to get the recognition that I didn't get as a young kid from my parents. And
Right.
when I started healing myself, I was no longer kind of craving going on stage. I was not craving to
Yeah.
just being there. It wasn't as fulfilling to me anymore. So I feel like once you start healing yourself and you start healing these needs that you think this external thing is going to make you feel, you
Hmm.
start really connecting to your true core soul desires without all the ego stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you're basically purifying your motivation. That's what it is. It's
Exactly.
I call that bad fuel turning bad fuel to good fuel. And I
Perfect.
think and I think all of us have mixed fuels. And I mean, that's literally one of the things that I do with my clients in coaching is that I go, okay, let's work on your fuel. What is it exactly? And you will be surprised, and you won't be surprised actually, because you've been on stage and everything, of how much bad fuel is fueling the career of very, very, very gifted people. And because the fuel is bad, they don't fly as high and they don't go as far as they could have if they had just changed their motivation and really purified their fuel.
Or they getting all the success, but then the worst part when it doesn't make you feel what it is you hoped it's going to make you
Yeah,
feel.
because it's an
And
illusion. Yeah, they
and then
expect
you
something
look
that.
back and it's like, oh my God, I spent all these years and I sacrificed so much. And
Mhm.
that is all it is. Kind of like when you have that moment where you're on your
Yeah.
way. And that is kind of what I feel a lot of people are now waking up to. Is this what its life is all about? Just going to your job and paying taxes and like, so help if now as a coach, how would you help somebody to find the sole purpose of what it is they actually want to do and they're meant to do?
Well, first you need the space for that, and my take on it is that you need to develop a skill that brings you the ability to even see those things, and the skill, I mean, there's various names for it. I call it metacognition, and it's basically an ability to be able to think of what you're thinking. So it's almost like being outside of yourself, and it's essentially a fancy word for a constant or often or daily, I would say, practice that would allow you to be very, very self-aware on a high level. Because then you understand yourself. Most people would just walk around 90% on autopilot, right? So metacognition is the skill. The practices for metacognition are, I think, the key to that. So you need to have some sort of daily self-awareness practices that elevate that clarify all of the essence of the essence of the essence. And then once you have that, you can process, right? All kinds of things in the present, things in the past. But I would say you always start with the past. Origin story contains a lot of treasure, right? And you mine your origin story and you can find extraordinary advantages and gifts and abilities that can be now flushed out, enhanced, expanded, and then put out into the world as a something that you can, serve others with. It could be, intellectual property. It could be a service. It could be a product. It could be all kinds of things.
I found that a lot of with my clients is this combination between looking at what they were when they're children, where they're just purely being
Hmm.
without the world try to kind of infuse their opinions and limited beliefs into them, what they really kind of thrive doing,
Hmm.
and until somebody tell them you can make money off it, right?
Yeah.
And also look at what was the biggest challenge they overcame.
Yeah.
That is one of those two things when you can find this in between, what's in between those two circles. That is the biggest purpose that I found for a lot of people, because all the challenges we go through in our life, they're not just for nothing. It's not just because source hates us and God hates us and we just need to kind of survive it through. There's always a meaning to it because we meant to use the gifts and the knowledge and the tools we learn from this
I
specific
agree.
challenge
Totally. Yeah.
to teach others. And all the things that I learned about myself and learned through my relationship and money and all the things that I did throughout my life, it's something that I 100% not only can explain it, but also I know exactly what the person in front of me is going through. And there's nothing more valuable than that, to be in your soul pull.
Yeah. I mean, for example, that's a great way to put it. And for example, why is it that I do high performance coaching? I could do life coaching. I could do all kinds of coaching, right? I do high performance coaching. Why? Well, because I know from the inside what it means to be a high performer.
So, what
Both
is
the
a high performer for you? What does that mean?
Well, to me, it's the person who has to achieve, right? Like you can't just do music. You need to do music. You need to be one of the top in your space. You need to be in the top 1%. You have that level of drive and excellence and curiosity and work ethic, that grit. Those are the people, right? Those are the people. They don't want to just jog. They want to race. They
Do
don't
you
want to just
feel?
play. They want
Mhm.
to play in the best band possible. They don't want to just play on a stage. They want to play on the stage. Those are the high performers, right? So there's something fueling them, and usually people like that have extraordinary drive, extraordinary giftedness, and also extraordinary flat sides, character-wise. And because I was that guy, and I was literally had a number one hit and I was clinically depressed at the same time.
Mm, that's a
I
good
know that.
point.
I know how it feels.
So it's amazing that you say something like that because when you say grind, hustle,
Hmm.
number one, that is something that I feel like a lot of people want, but they know it's too high of a price to pay because as you know, there's a toll that your body takes mentally, physically.
Hmm.
And but I love the fact that you said like how can you get to the top performer to be a top performer, whatever it is that you do, but without losing
That's exactly it.
your
Yeah. And
soul.
that's exactly what I do. I help people that want to be that way. They can't help themselves. They are that, you know.
Exactly.
And but they also know that there's flat sides. There's selfishness, narcissism, pride, there's insecurities, there's fears, there's all kinds of stuff under the surface. So, and it's so funny that people like that usually don't get a lot of empathy from the general
No,
public because they're perceived super successful, something, and they don't see behind the surface and behind their perceived surface. And even if something publicly bad happens to them, they don't get empathy because people don't they don't know how to relate to that, right? And I do. Like I know I am them, so I can help them, you know? So
exactly.
that's sort of why I do what I do, right? Because somebody came, my very first guy who changed my life was actually a Canadian missionary who
Mm,
had some incredible wisdom in himself. And I was clinically depressed and I saw his life, his family, his demeanor, how he spoke. And I basically said, look, I want to learn from you. Can you teach me? And he did. And it's like, to me, it was a transformative thing because I realized I can be literally in the top 1% in my space. And I was, right? And just be crushing it. And some of the stuff that are missing, just missing pieces in my character, in my understanding of how the world works, can limit the thing that I want to do most and I gave everything up for and can really, really like give me this massive ceiling. And even furthermore, they can, I mean, I can't even go far if I don't fix this other thing that has nothing to do with my career. You know, it's a different set of skills. So I need someone to guide me through those things. And it changed my life. And he mentored me one on one for years and it just transformed me. So I really, then I started doing it for other people, right? And you know, I had like Olympic athletes and fashion designers and artists and entrepreneurs come to me, and because I had this passion for that thing, right? Because it was so good for me, and also because I can empathize, also because I'm not intimidated easily by people like that, you know. So I can talk to anybody, I don't care, right?
yeah.
So, and that's basically the backstory of how I landed on coaching as one of the things that I really love doing.
It's incredible. And it's interesting. So and I'm sure you probably had that, and I see with my clients as well. I have people that are making millions of dollars a year, and they still don't feel abundant.
Yeah,
They still didn't feel like
yeah,
they made it.
yeah.
And still you have somebody who's making 80,000, but he
Mm,
feels on top of the world.
that's right.
So it's very interesting. What is that top performer? What is that making it looks like? It
Hmm.
looks like very different for a lot of people. And a lot of times, kind of coming back to what we spoke about, when we choose something like, let's say, performing art for the wrong reasons. We
Hmm.
think that that's what we want and we're good
Yeah,
at it. So it makes sense, but it's not really what our soul came here to be. That's what
yeah.
we came here to master. And how did you help people to really find what is a success looks like to them? Because
I have an
yeah.
assessment tool that I use with all my clients
Hmm.
that I developed based on all kinds of research, personal experience, and working with people. It's called the Exponential Scorecard. And it's a very simple assessment tool. You can actually I give it away for free. You can go to exponential.life and find the little button there for that for the scorecard. Exponential without the e, exponential.life. And it asks you maybe like 40 questions, 45 questions. It takes maybe 8, 9, 10 minutes depending on how you answer, how fast you answer. And it gives you this incredible map of where you are flourishing in the areas that really, really matter for your long-term success, that where you're not flourishing, where you're maybe in somewhere in the middle. It's a very simple and profoundly accurate and predictive. So I can ask you those questions, talk about with you a little bit. This, even sometimes people just want to book a call with me after taking the assessment, and I can walk you through it, and I can tell you if you're really doing well and you will do even better, or maybe you think you're doing well, but you are trouble is around the corner. You're very vulnerable. You're at risk. So that's what I use as almost like taking the vitals of a human being, right?
Yeah.
And it works really, really well. It's remarkable.
All right. That's incredible. So send us the link so we can put it in the show notes
Absolutely.
and take that, because it's very good to have that reflection, to
Hmm.
see what it is that you think you want, but then when you see it on paper, you're like, you can actually relate to that better.
Yeah, 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 absolutely. And the thing is, once you have the practices in place, and that's why I do emphasize, hey, yeah, of course, everybody, like, it's logical that we want to go, what am I passionate about? What are people, what makes me feel fully alive? This was what my soul desires, what other people find valuable, what they're willing to pay me for. Of course.
That's the
But how
basic.
do you, yeah, but how do you get there? How do you get to that understanding? I mean, that's the hard part, right?
Yes.
So, and you need skills for that. It doesn't just happen because of an exercise on a whiteboard, and talking about opera, which is really cool that I'm talking to you. I love opera. I, you know, I did pop, right? So all of my idols were pop stars like Prince or Michael Jackson or people like that. And in my sort of season in the 90s, for example, and I had a natural tone, right? So I have a voice. It's people like it. I love singing. I like performing. I can dance. I can sing. I can write. I can do all those things. But I did not have technique, right? Vocal technique. And
Yes.
my first vocal coach was an opera vocal coach.
Oh my God. She'd tear you apart probably.
Yes, I hated that guy. He had me do scales over and over and over. And I just didn't like him. I kept coming back to him. I didn't like him. And basically what he was explaining to me is like, look, I know that you want to sing like this and this and this, but you haven't trained your vocal cords. You don't know how to use breathing. You don't know what the different places in your body sound resonates well with, right? And you have to learn muscle memory. You have to be able to not even know about it, but actually know it and live it and breathe it. And he had me do scales and scales and scales, and he would do all kinds of exercises. They were so unsexy and not fun. But because of that guy who had an opera background, I was able to stand before 10,000 people and perform for 2 hours straight
Hmm.
without losing my voice. Thank you very
That's
much.
stamina. Thank you very much.
You know,
100%.
so my point is, in life, it's the same thing. You can understand the ideas, and that's why it can be very deflating to just sort of read an inspiration book or get somebody on stage, and they go, "Yeah, it's so simple. You do this and this and this and this." But you have to do the work to even understand how to implement what this person is saying. And that is daily, unsexy, routine stuff. You have to develop the habits.
98% of your success. And I always tell my clients as well, and you know it as well. It's like, I want the big flashy things, I want the big results. But those big things come as a ripple effect of
Yeah.
this daily,
You have to do a lot of,
consistent. When you
yep.
don't see the evidence, when you don't see the applause, when you don't see all the things that the kind of like the approves of all the things you want to see in your life, that is where you're actually going to get the thing. Because if you want something just because you want something,
Yeah.
don't want it for the right reasons, right?
And
It's
you
like,
have to do a lot of scales, basically. That's what it is. You
but that's
know?
the thing. It's like if you just want to go on stage and sing, you're not doing
Yeah.
it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
If you're truly passionate about learning and connecting to your voice and really focus on that versus just the end goal, that
Yeah.
is how you're going to win. And
Yeah.
that's what I see, because as we know, 80-90% of the time is us going towards the goal. So we want to
Yeah.
enjoy it. We want to be in the purpose as we move towards the
Yeah.
goal,
Enjoy the
not
process. That's right. Yeah.
just be in the result mode, because that's what it's all about. That's what the Matrix teach us. You're going to get the car, you're going to be happy. You're going to get the wife, you're going to be happy. You're going to get $1 million, you're going to be happy. And then you're not, because happiness is not all about that. It's about your relationship with yourself as you are moving and experiencing all the things that
Yeah.
you want to receive in your life and more. So
Yeah. That's true.
incredible.
That's
Incredible.
true.
So tell us a little bit more about your book.
Oh, the book. So I wrote this book. It's completely unrelated to the business, which is sort of again, hey, this is something I want to do for no particular reason other than I want to do it.
Yeah, I love this.
It's called Little Book of Big Reasons to Love America, and it's basically 10 chapters from an immigrant standpoint. 10
Oh, I
reasons,
love
10
that.
chapters, and it's sort of this idea of, sometimes you need an outsider's perspective to just appreciate what you have. And I think America, there's so much America bashing, right? By Americans mostly,
Exactly.
you know?
They don't know
And
how
then,
good they have it.
yeah, and then those of us who come from the outside, we were like, why are you doing this? Like we're so grateful to be here. We're immigrants, and this is an amazing place. And yeah, I mean, of course, it has flaws, and there's no perfect place on earth. There's no sinless nation, but you have to really appreciate what you have because you can build it, protect it, nurture it, rather than sort of allow people to just walk over all over it. We don't want to lose this. So yeah, so it's basically that's the idea, and it's a book basically of 10 chapters, 10 reasons, lots of crazy stories to illustrate, a lot of substance, actually. I sort of wanted to a balance between something you can read in an afternoon and an evening. It's an easy read, but it has insights, some substance that you can chew on. And then, of course, being the multimedia kind of guy, I put a lot of pictures like from my personal archives that were really amazing, and a mix of that and AI generated illustrations. Every
Wow,
chapter has this QR code where you can actually go online and have me tell more stories that didn't make it into the book.
it's
And so
incredible.
it's very multidimensional. Yeah, yeah.
Wow, you're gonna send us the link because we want to
Yes,
explore that. That is
absolutely. Yeah.
amazing, especially as immigrants. w- You feel like you're talking to our soul, and
That exactly. That's
that is all
exactly
we
it.
want sometimes, not to feel alone. I was just seeing this reel today about this girl after a long day. She's coming back home, and in the title, it says, being a bilingual, there's nothing better than just coming home after a long day trying to talk second language,
Yeah,
basically.
that's
So
right. Uh-huh.
how much mental
Hmm.
strength it takes to just think in a different language, try to say the right thing, and just
It's
kind of like,
hard. Yeah.
especially with your kids, probably like how many languages you guys talking?
I speak four.
Or with
Spanish,
them, are you
Portuguese.
speaking?
No, I was sort of unfortunately, I need to confess this. I was a terrible father in the sense of languages, and they remind me of that constantly. So I I did not make them speak Russian. I did not make them speak anything, and because basically I have no excuses. I am mea culpa, right? But they do speak a little bit. They understand. The youngest one understands a little Russian. The middle one understands a lot of Russian and can speak a little bit. The older one is fluent, right?
Oh, that's
Uh,
amazing. That's
yeah. So,
incredible.
but that's it. Basically, despite me, they can do that. But when I grew up, we spoke literally at the dinner table. My dad would say something in Spanish. My mom would answer him in Russian, okay?
It's
Because they
amazing.
speak both. And then my sister and I can chime in Portuguese or say something in English. They speak to themselves in French when they don't want us to understand because we don't speak French. They do. So it was like a normal conversation. It was like crazy people, right? But for us, that was normal. And there's a marked difference, by the way. You mentioned, oh, my brain hurts if the second language. That is actually true of people who didn't learn when they were babies, when they were kids. So
Yes.
my wife, she moved from LA to Moscow and lived there for 5 years. And she basically said that her brain physically hurt when she was trying to speak Russian, translate, make sense of the impossible grammar because it's a very different family of languages. And it's still because she learned as an adult, she speaks it really well and she speaks Portuguese as well. So she speaks three. It's still almost like you install a new software for the separate language, right? You can switch, but it's a process. You have to sort of reset. For somebody who I learned all four by age 9,
Let's
and
see.
so it's almost like hardwired, right? So I can literally speak to you in English, turn speak in Russian, turn speak in Spanish, zero lag. It's almost like in
Seamless.
parallel, you know? Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's like I go to Mozambique. We have a little after school academy there. We do philanthropy there, and I spend a week, and I can start dreaming in Portuguese, and my vocabulary goes like this quickly in about a week, right?
Amazing.
So if you get it early, it's an incredible thing, you know?
I'm trying. I have the same issues where I'm trying to speak to my son. He's 3 years old in Russian, and he
Yeah.
answers me in English. So I'm just being
Oh,
persistent.
that's normal. Yeah, that's
That's
normal.
normal. Okay.
Yeah, it really is. Like, and this will, if you move back to Belarus, for example, it will switch in about a year. See, I kid you not. So because when we were refugees in Chile, I spoke Spanish. I understand a little Russian, but I don't want to. But I'm like a kid, right? Spanish, Spanish, Spanish. You move to Russia, Russian, Russian, Russian. Spanish goes down very quickly. You go to Africa, all of them go down. Portuguese goes up. It's just back and forth and back and forth. And when I went back to Russia, I could read, I could speak. Vocabulary was very low. I had an accent. I couldn't write very well. So I had to reacquire those things as a teenager, 14 years old. So those changes happen very quickly in young children.
All right. I appreciate it. I need
Yeah,
it.
so it's totally normal what you're experiencing. It's like completely,
Fantastic.
yeah,
So there's
yeah.
still hope.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Amazing. Well, my dear, thank you so much for being here and telling your story and telling all your beautiful insights. And it's just amazing. There's so many things we can go even deep diver into that. So
Yes, yes,
if
we
people are
can.
gonna be asking for more, they're gonna have more questions. We're definitely gonna reach out and set up another interview where we can go even deeper on one of the things that people are interested to hear more about. But it's incredible, especially your assessment and
Yeah.
your book. I already know my amazing listeners will love that. So
hmm
that's incredible. Do you have any kind of last things you want to say?
I would love for you guys, if you're listening and you feel like, okay, this guy has my number, right? Like he gets me. I would love for you to subscribe to my newsletter. That's like my latest thing that I want to send people to, because there's a free version, there's a paid version. You can choose either one. But I pour the best stuff that I have into that thing, and it's posts that I do, it's podcasts that I visit, podcasts that I host, books that I read. It's like the best of the best of the best in the newsletter. So if you go to christianrayflores.com, that's my Substack, and that's where it lives. So it's probably the thing that I would love for you guys to check out. And it's just free stuff, and it's the best of the best that I have to offer.
Amazing. And lastly, what does effortless abundant life mean to you?
Ah, I would say love,
Wow.
as much love as possible.
To anything you do and who you are.
Yeah, anything you do it with a lot of love, and you experience it.
And that's
There's,
what makes everything effortless. Ah,
hmm
perfect answer.
I think so. Yeah,
Perfect answer. And
yeah.
with that, my dear, thank you so, so much. Have an incredible, incredible year of more doing, of more helping and transforming more people's life. God knows we need more people like you, especially now. So thank you so much, and we hope to see you again.
Спасибо большое.
Не за что.